Hello, hello, Habarigani. We are ready for our first session today with Brother Isaac Adai. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for the opportunity for you to be here and drop some knowledge for everyone here. This is our first session with entrepreneurship, and we will definitely make sure we have our notes ready. And we are ready to grab all of the knowledge that I know you are about to drop for us today.
I'm going to try to take you guys to school today as it relates to entrepreneurship. I'm going to go back to the classroom and just teach this from a pure educator perspective.
Wonderful, wonderful. We are ready. So I just want to give a quick introduction to our brother here, Isaac Adai. So he is committed to strengthening communities of color across the globe. He relies on his business expertise, experience, and a yearning for change to drive his efforts. Through leveraging the collective resources of business, government agencies, as well as civil and social organizations, he is committed to developing and implementing creative solutions for the most pressing needs of underserved communities. Isaac is an assistant professor of business administration at Tennessee State University College of Business here in Nashville, Tennessee, where he teaches courses in business strategy, entrepreneurship, and leadership. He also serves as the Chief Development Officer of Pivot Technology School, where he fosters relationships to further the organization's mission of training minorities for technology careers. Isaac received a Bachelor's of Science in Electrical Engineering and a Master's in Systems Engineering at TSU. And he is currently a management PhD candidate in the Morgan State University School of Business and Management. If that didn't make you want to get your notes ready to grab all of this knowledge, I don't know what will.
All that means I'm a bookworm. See all these books I have behind me?
Yes, we are ready for that. So I will go ahead and drop off. Ask any questions you have in the chat. I will be monitoring those, but the floor is yours and we are ready for you.
Thank you so much, Jasmine, for the invitation. Thank you to Kwanzaa Nashville for keeping this event going. I've been a part of this Ujamaa Black Business Expo since, I believe, 2016. So I've seen this event grow and grow and grow. And as we think about the Kwanzaa season and we think about Ujamaa and this idea of us coming together and working together for the greater good of our community through economic development, to me, this couldn't be a much better, a more important time in our lives to have this conversation. So I'm glad to be the first presenter today. I hope to make it fun, to make it interesting, to make it informative. Please ask questions as we go along. The chat window is up. I'll come back and tap into the chat and try to respond to questions. I do have a presentation that I'm going to walk through and just give you guys some perspective on entrepreneurship and essentially what is purpose-driven profit. So that's the framework that I'm going to be teaching from today. So let me just pull the slides up here. All right, let me get this up for everybody. Okay, I'm hoping everybody can see what I have available here. So again, I am Isaac Adai. I will be talking to you all today about the framework that I developed, which is called purpose-driven profits. Before I get into that, let me just tell you a little bit about who I am and how I got to this point. I think it's important anytime I go and speak to a group of people to give them some perspective about me. I like to start off by saying that I'm a first generation American. My parents immigrated to this country from Ghana in the late 70s. And I like to say that I'm their first experiment. And so far, I think their experiment went well. I do have siblings. So my parents raised several children in this American culture, in this Black American culture, through a Ghanaian lens. So the way in which I look at the world is from a bicultural perspective. At home, when I was growing up, everything was very Ghanaian. Outside of the home, everything was very American and Black American. And so I grew up a little bit conflicted as a child because I had to reconcile two cultures, one that was more dominant at home and then one that had its dominance outside of the home. One thing that my parents always taught us was to be community minded and purpose driven, to understand why we're here, what we're supposed to accomplish with our lives, but more importantly, give back to our community. And so for most of my life, I've been immersed in that mindset of giving back. And I found many ways to do that throughout my career. Let me just share some of those with you. Currently, I'm the Chief Development Officer for Pivot Technology School. If you're not familiar with Pivot Technology School, get familiar. Pivot is changing the world. It's a technology school that was launched here in Nashville. It's a virtual training program for working professionals seeking to transition into technology careers. Pivot is on fire. I just shared the link with you guys in the chat so you can check it out. In my role as Chief Development Officer, I support the organization with identifying relationships in the community so that we can grow. As Jasmine mentioned, I'm also an assistant professor in the College of Business at Tennessee State University, which is also my alma mater. I completed 2 engineering degrees from Tennessee State, and I currently teach entrepreneurship, business strategy, and leadership, a position that I've held since January 2015. I've really enjoyed my role at TSU because it's not only allowed me to grow as an individual, but it's allowed me to really impact the lives of minority students seeking to go into the business world, either working for an organization or starting their own. I've taught over 1,000 students in my time at TSU. I still remember most of their names, and many of them still contact me, which I enjoy. I'm also studying business as a PhD candidate at Morgan State University, a journey in which I will be completing next semester. And it's been a decade in the making for me. Most people don't take 10 years to finish their PhD. My life went through a lot of twists and turns, but I'm happy to almost be at this point of completion. My research is focused on entrepreneurship. So my entire dissertation study is looking at how business owners make an impact. So in addition to teaching entrepreneurship, I also study it at an academic research level. From a corporate or industry perspective, I spent about 8+ years in the business world, working in different organizations such as IBM and Booz Allen Hamilton in varying roles across the technology industry. I gained a ton of experience and a ton of perspective in those roles, which applies to my work with entrepreneurs today, because I worked in large organizations and I helped develop technology and deliver products for customers. That is a perspective that I bring to the table when I'm working with entrepreneurs in terms of understanding what is it that you're delivering, what is the value that you're creating, which we'll get into as we go through the discussion for today. And then also, I've been teaching entrepreneurship for about 10 years or so, and I've been coaching founders for about 10 years as well. 2010 is really when I delved deeper into this business and entrepreneurship world and started teaching and coaching entrepreneurs. So that's just a little bit about my background. In terms of what I do for fun, I enjoy running, cycling, reading, traveling. I listen to music pretty much most of the day. Enjoy spending time with the kids and my wife. I live a very simple life, but a very fulfilled life, one that is purpose driven. So what is this concept? Well, Purpose Driven Profits is a framework that I developed in January of 2015. I was actually on a cruise with my now wife, and we were just doing some brainstorming, and this concept was in my mind. I came up with this framework, and it's about using your purpose to generate revenue for your business. The motivation behind this framework stems from my interactions with entrepreneurs over the past decade. I've talked to a lot of people that either are wanting to start a business or are currently running a business. And again, think about it. I've taught over 1,000 business students. I've heard just about every entrepreneurship idea you can think of. I've talked to different venture owners who've launched, who've sold, who've gone out of business. For me, it all comes back to one thing. Why are you doing what you're doing? What's your purpose? And it's not just about purpose in terms of your business, it's purpose in terms of you. I believe that your purpose, which is very unique and specific to you, has something to do with your ability to succeed in business. There are two things that are mutually connected. And we're going to go through that process today, which is a 6-step process to guide you through how we start with purpose and how we get to profits. All right. So grab some pencil or paper or have your mobile device, take some notes. We're going to walk through this framework. We're going to really dive deep into how this can work for your life and how this can work for your business. And again, as I mentioned, we can ask questions over in the chat window. I'll chime in throughout the presentation. So feel free to feel free to ask questions. And I have my tea. I don't know about you guys. I have to start my day with some tea. We'll get you some tea while you're listening to this discussion. All right, so let's go. Let's jump into this. What is your purpose? It took me a while to really understand what my purpose was. I went through life chasing after goals, trying to realize dreams, not really understanding why I was doing what I was doing. All right. So I'll help you make sense of it. Make sense of this. Alicia says she has coffee. See, I got you. I cut the coffee some years back. When I think about my life and I think about my career transition from engineering to being in the academic world, for me, that shift was 100% about getting closer to my purpose. All right. I pursued an engineering career because I was good at math and science. I loved technology. And in the 90s, there was this big push to get more African Americans into STEM fields or STEM careers, science, technology, engineering, and math. My father was a robotics professor. I had been immersed in that world. I went to all the STEM summer camps that you could imagine all through high school. So I got put on that engineering track early. And part of it is because I didn't have any engineers around me that I could talk with to really understand what their job entails. I just knew of engineering as a career, and I had assumptions of what it was about. Engineering is not like medicine or law, where when you turn on a TV show, you see doctors, right? They've got entire TV shows around medicine. They've got TV shows around lawyers in court. What do engineers actually do? I've never seen a TV show about engineers. Well, engineers do a lot of things. And as I went through and gained 2 engineering degrees and interned throughout my summer experiences, I started to kind of learn more about what engineering was. But it wasn't until I started my full-time job in 2006 with IBM after graduate school that I really understood what I was getting into. Engineers are the people that solve problems. I'm a natural problem solver. Makes sense to me to be an engineer. But when you get into an actual career as an engineer, and I was a computer engineer specifically, my job every day was to test lines of code to make sure that the microprocessors and the technology that you use works. That was my job. And it was a coveted position at IBM. I was in Austin, Texas. It was a really hard job to get. I was a Black engineer from Tennessee State who got that job over a bunch of people from, all types of schools. Well, 6 months into my job, I was not happy with what I was doing. And I was quite embarrassed, to be honest with you. I spent 5 years getting an undergrad degree, 2 years getting a master's degree. So that's 7 years, 5 engineering internships across that 7 year window, and 6 months into my career. And I don't want to do this anymore. I hit a wall, and it was pretty embarrassing because I've been telling everybody since I was in the 8th grade that I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to be an engineer. Here I am working as an engineer, but I'm unfulfilled. I'm not happy with what I'm doing. Now I'm confused because the thing that I thought that I wanted, I had, yet I had this big hole that I could not fill. And I realized then I had to make a change. So 6 months into my career at IBM, this was about spring 2017, spring 2007, I emailed the Dean of Engineering at Tennessee State and I told him, hey, I'm going to be back in the academic world. I don't know when, but I'm going to be back in the academic world. The corporate thing is cool, but it's not for me. So I started my engineering career in 2006. I did not become a college professor until 2015. That was almost 10 years later. Okay. I started my doctorate program in 2010 while I was still working as an engineer, because it took me 4 years to figure out what I wanted to pursue my doctorate degree in. I knew I didn't want to do a PhD in engineering. It took me some years to figure it out. And then I understood my passion for business, which we'll talk about in a second. And that's how I got down that path. So, purpose. What is your purpose? I realized that my purpose was not to be an engineer in a technology company, but that my purpose was to educate. My purpose was to teach. My purpose was to impact people's lives directly through my ability to guide people through the learning process and to solve problems. Once I discovered my purpose, I was then able to move into the next step. So when you think about your business, so when you think about when you think about your business, so when you think about entrepreneurship, why are you in business? Why are you doing what you're doing? What's your purpose? Are you in business because you are seeking to generate additional revenue streams? Are you in business because you're carrying on a family legacy? Does any of that have to do with why you were created? What your purpose is? I believe that we all have a very unique purpose. We were created to do something very specific. And the greatest challenge in life is to figure that thing out. And once you figure that thing out, you're able to move to the next step. How do you do that? Well, you ask the why question. I came across this exercise that I can share with you guys later, where you ask a series of why questions until you get to the bottom of why you're doing what you're doing. So, for example, you can say, why am I in business? Once you answer that question, ask another why. So if you're in business because you want to make money, okay, why? Because I want to feed my family. Okay, why? Dig deeper. Start to really uncover why you're doing what you're doing, because that helps you get to your purpose. And for me, I'm a spiritual person, so I believe that that plays a role. But no matter what your framework or your perspective is as it relates to spirituality or higher powers or whatnot, you were created to do something. What is it? How do you discover it? Discovering that, I think, puts you on a path towards success in entrepreneurship. And I'll say this, because I've talked to many people who are either in business or considering business. And once you get involved in entrepreneurship, it is not the easiest thing to do. So you've got to be really clear on why you're doing it. If your why is not strong, you will not stick with it when the going gets tough. But if your why is clear to you and you totally understand your purpose, that is what you lean on when the customers aren't showing up, when you're running into challenges with your business partner. You fall back on your why. If your why is not clear, you're not strong about your why, your purpose is not very well understood to you, it poses challenges. All right. So that's the first step in this process, discovering your purpose, understanding your purpose, and allowing that to connect you to the next phase, which is passion. Now, people have many things that they can be passionate about. I have a few things that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about technology. I'm passionate about business. I'm passionate about helping people. I'm passionate about being a husband and a father, right? But when I think about my life in general, I have to understand, what is it that keeps me going? What is it that I can do to take my purpose and put it into action? I believe that's what your passion is. Your passion is your purpose in action. So again, as I mentioned, my purpose is to teach and educate. I apply that to entrepreneurs. So in a business sense, that's my business. I teach entrepreneurs. I educate and coach business owners. Because my purpose is to educate and impact people's lives through learning, and I'm passionate about business and technology, that's how I'm able to live out my purpose through my work in educating business owners. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Again, it's the thing that keeps your fire burning. It's the thing that gets you up at night. It's the thing that really helps you thrive. Let me just stop for a second. Someone is saying they're having technical difficulties. Is everyone able to hear me and see the video footage? I just want to make sure before we keep going. Jasmine, are you able to hear me? Just drop a comment. Okay, all right, we're good. She said she can hear me. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you, Alicia. When you think about your passion, it's the thing that keeps you going. It's the thing that keeps your fire burning. And in my opinion, it's the thing that you would do if you didn't have to worry about money. So let's think about that. Financial freedom, right? Financial freedom is something that I aspire to achieve in my life, where I can get to a place where I don't even have to think about money. I can get up and go do whatever, whenever, however I want to. If I reach that, well, not if, when I reach that place of financial freedom, what will I still want to do? I still will want to help people and educate people. And the reason I know that is because I do that for free many times now. I do that in some paid capacities as well, but I truly enjoy helping people solve problems, helping people educate themselves on different things that they're trying to figure out as it relates to business, technology, but also other areas. So if I have financial freedom, I'm still going to be passionate about teaching and learning. It just may look different. Maybe I would just travel and do that more. Maybe I'd go back to Ghana and spend more time there teaching and educating and coaching people. That's what I'm passionate about. So if you think about it, I was able to connect my purpose in life, which is to impact people through my ability to help them understand how to solve problems and how to my unique approach to learning. And I connect that to my passion, which is what I enjoy doing in terms of business and technology and things like that. And I'm able to move that in an entrepreneurial way. All right. So, what is it that you're passionate about? What is it that excites you? What is it that you would do for free? Now, don't think about this necessarily in the sense of your business that you either running or you plan to start. Just think about it in general, because you may discover something there. It is possible to build business models around the things that you're passionate about. I think that a business that is grounded in your purpose and linked to your passion is going to be a business that you can succeed at because it's a core part of who you are. All right. I have seen people be successful running businesses that they don't care about, but I've seen people really thrive in a business that is connected to them in some deeper sense of purpose and passion. They enjoy what they're doing. They love the work. They are purposefully connected to it. It aligns with the things that they're passionate about. So guess what? They enjoy it. It's fun. It's not a labor that they don't want to engage in. It's more of a labor of love. Okay. It's kind of like being a parent, right? For anybody that has kids out there, you enjoy it. It's challenging, but the reward is because you have this child that you're nurturing. I look at business the same way. Think about your passion, or passions, write them down. Try to make sense of why these things matter to you. And again, take money out of the equation and just be real with yourself and say, if I could do anything that I wanted to do on a daily basis, what would that be? For my wife, that's travel. She would travel 7 days a week. She's passionate about other things, but she's most passionate about travel. I told her, well, maybe you should be a flight attendant, but she said no. But anyway, passion, your passions that are aligned with you and that are linked to your purpose will fuel you as it relates to entrepreneurship. Anyone have any questions so far before I jump to the next slide? If you have a question or so, just feel free to drop it in the chat. And if not, I'll go ahead and go to the next phase. All right, step 3. Now we're going to talk about the problem, okay? This is where you're starting to really get more into your business idea or the business venture that you currently run. Prior to this step, steps 1 and 2 were more about you as an individual. What is it that your purpose? What is your purpose in life? Why were you created? What is your passion? What excites you? If you have a clear understanding of your purpose and you know the things that you're passionate about, you're going to be aware of problems that relate to your passions. Okay. So for example, someone that is passionate about early childhood education is likely going to be aware of a lot of problems in that lane. Okay. I'm passionate about business and technology. My purpose is to teach and coach and impact people's lives in a positive way. So the problems that I'm aware of are the problems related to entrepreneurship and technology and the gaps that exist in those areas. I hope that makes sense. My framework for looking at the world and identifying problems comes out of the things that I tend to be passionate about. Okay. Now, I'm not just only passionate about entrepreneurship and technology. I'm passionate about running and cycling too. I also am aware of problems that exist in those areas. The things that we spend our time doing, the things that we engage in regularly, whether we want to or not, those things that we want to do, things that we're passionate about, we're aware of problems that exist in those arenas. This is important because when we think about entrepreneurship, we're trying to address a problem that exists. And it's not just a problem, it's a painful problem. It's a problem that causes pain. The reason we're wanting to address the painful problem is because a painful problem is a problem that somebody may be willing to exchange currency for to identify a solution to that problem. All right. So let's just think of 2020. 2020 has presented a lot of problems due to the pandemic. All right. One problem, if you are owning a brick and mortar restaurant, one problem you faced this year was restrictions on how many patrons you can have inside your business. That's a painful problem. You're making your money on dine-in patrons that has been limited. So your business may have declined overnight over the course of a week or two as we went through our different phases of shutdown. That's a huge problem, right? Well, guess what? There are solutions to that problem. Those solutions were in place prior to the pandemic, but they became great solutions in terms of Uber Eats and DoorDash. Those solutions address that problem that many brick and mortar food establishments had in 2020. And they were still able to make money because as customers were at home still demanding their food services, those apps filled the gap and connected the business to the customer, and they were still able to make money. Okay. In entrepreneurship and business, when we think about building a business and driving a product or a service, we have to really have a good understanding of what is the problem that we're trying to solve. But not only what is the problem, let's describe that problem, right? Who is impacted by it? How are they impacted by it? Why does that problem even exist to begin with? And what solutions are there currently? These are questions that'll help you either refine your approach to the problem you're trying to solve, if you're getting ready to launch a business, or if you currently run a business, revisit this conversation. Ask yourself, what problem is your business solving? Because ultimately, when customers engage with your business, you're filling some gap, okay? And to get them to continuously engage in business with you is because you have found a way to repeatedly address that issue for that customer. And that's how you're able to grow and scale, by identifying a painful problem that impacts many people and providing a product or solution to that and essentially scaling. So what is the painful problem? Okay. We've seen a lot of apps this year hit the market. We've seen a lot of companies boom this year. And it's because they essentially had a solution to a real problem. And again, COVID-19 created many problems in the business economy. And a lot of businesses either entered the market to solve or were already there and just stepped up their efforts. So let me give you guys another example. I use Peloton, the Peloton bike. Their business grew tremendously this year. They started in 2014. They've been chugging along for the past 6 years, selling bikes, having workout videos online. But when the pandemic forced gyms to close and relegated people to their homes, all of a sudden, that problem became more painful. If I'm not able to go to the gym and work out, but I need to exercise because health is wealth, all of a sudden, I'm looking for some solutions to solve this painful problem. Oh, there's a company called Peloton. They've already got a product. They can't ship these bikes fast enough. And these are not cheap products. Their stock went through the roof this year. Their business was revolutionized by COVID, and it's likely going to continue to thrive in the years to come. Again, think about your lane, the area that you're passionate about, the place that you spend time in. What problems exist? Who are those problems impacting? What solutions are out there? Really think through these things, because as you get a better sense of the problem, we can then think about the next step, which is addressing the problem. Okay, so we started with purpose, understanding why we exist, what unique problem, what unique reason we were created. We then link that to our passion in terms of understanding the things that we enjoy, the things that drive us, the things that keep our fire burning. Now let's connect that to the problems that we're aware of. There are many. There are tons of problems still that can be solved through entrepreneurship. Even though there are businesses that may already be addressing it, there are other businesses that can come onto the market and innovate and better solve that problem. We're seeing this happen every day. Uber launched, then Lyft, okay? There's still ways to solve existing problems. So let's just think about that and how that makes sense for you. The next phase, step 4, relates to the product. Now, as we as we understand the problem, we can think about a solution to that problem. And that's where the product or service comes into play. I just stuck with P's, but product or service. Okay. What is the product or the service that you've identified that can best solve the problem that exists? And again, we're addressing a painful problem. It's a problem that's impacting a good number of people, enough for you to have a decent base of customers. What's your solution? All right. This picture is a good friend of mine, Courtney Hale, my line brother. In 2010, he launched Knowledge Bank. A few years ago, he came up with his Knowledge Banks, which are savings banks for children, as a product that grew out of his financial literacy movement. He identified this as an educational way to teach minority youth about the need to spend, save, and give. So that's why he has the 3 banks. So it's not just about a piggy bank where you just put your money in it. It's about the deeper concept of save some, spend some, give some to other people. My children have these savings banks. We have these conversations with them all the time. A piggy bank is not anything new. Those have been around for as long as we can remember. But what Courtney was able to do was to innovate on an existing concept of savings, but tailor it toward minority youth using characters that have a story behind the spend, save, give. That's creativity and innovation applied to entrepreneurship. So when we're thinking about the product, we've got to get creative. When we're thinking about the service, we've got to get creative. There are a lot of solutions to problems on the market. Entrepreneurs are launching every day to provide products or services. Because of the way that technology has proliferated the world, it's much easier to get a product or service out into customers, much quicker, much simpler. That means that we've got to be much more creative and innovative in the approaches that we identify in terms of developing a product or a service that addresses a painful problem. All right. So when you think about this product or service, how are you going to create it? If it's a product, is it something that you have to manufacture? Where do you get the resources? How are you going to go about that? If it's a service, how is that service going to be delivered? For example, in my business, I do training, teaching, and consulting. So I don't necessarily have a physical product. I'm selling intellectual capital as a service that is created essentially by me and the people that I partner with. So I have to understand that I'm the source of that. Okay. Meaning if I want to scale my business, I've got to figure out how to scale what I do. It's really important to understand the product piece. That's where I see a lot of entrepreneurs struggle, because they've identified a great problem. They've got a great idea, but the product or the service that they've identified to address the problem makes sense to them, but it may not necessarily make sense to the customer base that they're trying to address. Okay. Some other things to consider in terms of the product or the solution that you've identified, the product or the service. Is it something that's valuable? Meaning, will customers see that as something that they need? Does this provide value to me? And remember, value is different for everybody. Okay. For me, value can mean cost. Value can also mean features. Value can mean how it makes me feel, how it makes me look. So you've got to understand what your customer values and determine whether or not your product or service is going to be a value add to them. Is your product or service rare? Are you creating something on the market that is readily available in all other types of forms? Is it a crowded market as it relates to what you're doing? For example, I have students every semester at TSU that have great ideas around clothing lines or a clothing brand. And we have conversations about it. And I tell them, I think that this is a unique idea that you came up with in terms of your brand and the story behind your brand. But it's a crowded market when we think of clothing brands. So how do you position what you're doing in a way where it's viewed as rare, in a sense, where the customer doesn't look at your product or service and say, oh yeah, I can get that over here, I can get that over there. Okay. So if you're entering a market that is already has several solutions similar to your own, just think about a way in which you can introduce that product or service to make it unique. Is it inimitable, meaning can it be imitated? If your product or service can be easily imitated by a competitor, that means someone else can quickly jump into your market and be a direct competitor. Okay. And is it non-substitutable, meaning is there something else somebody can substitute for the product or service that you're offering that would make your product or service essentially obsolete? Ultimately, you want to understand your value proposition. What is the value that you're delivering? Your value proposition is what keeps your customer coming back for more, is what keeps them tuned in. Okay. Just think of certain people that you follow on Instagram. When they make a post, you click on it, you engage with it. Why? It's bringing some type of value. It's connected to some type of reward system, something that you enjoy. Understand your value proposition for your business as an entrepreneur, or for the product or service that you're planning to launch a business on. What's the value? Why would a customer keep coming back? The example I like to use with my students in class is Chick-fil-A. Even on Sunday, people are circling Chick-fil-A trying to see if they're open. You know they're not open on Sunday, yet you still go by just to make sure, because maybe they just so happen to open this Sunday. They're never going to open on a Sunday. Why do people still go by? It's because they consistently deliver the same value, a good, quick meal that's not really that expensive. And they're going to be really nice to you. They might even change your tires when they give you your food. Okay. So they're consistent with their value they're clear on their value proposition, and they consistently deliver that value. Customers keep going back. So that product or service that you're identifying in business needs to deliver specific value to your customer, and they need to be able to understand how that's valuable for them. Let's talk about the plan. Once you've identified your purpose, you've made sense of the things you're passionate about, you've connected that to some problems that you've found related to those things, and then you've come up with a product or a service to address all of those problems. Now you got to have a plan. This is where we start to talk about your business model. A lot of entrepreneurs that I've worked with sit down and go through these very detailed business plans. But what I like to do with entrepreneurs when we sit down and talk about their business is to go through this business model canvas tool, which I'll show on the next slide. It's a very bare bones approach to thinking about your business. Before you even go into working on a business plan, you want to go through the business model canvas. And just a shameless plug here, I'm on the board for Corner to Corner, which has the Business Entrepreneurship Academy. Will and Shana and Tiffany are doing a great job over there. I know that they use the business model canvas framework in their training program for entrepreneurs. Go check out Corner to Corner, sign up. You're going to get a lot of education. Part of that is going to be helping you understand your business model canvas. This is something I also work with entrepreneurs on through my coaching. When you have a strong sense of your business model, now you're ready to go to the next step and formalize things and start to understand how you can deliver that value to your customer. That is what your business model does. Your business model is the method through which you deliver value to your customer. And that business model has several elements. many which are listed here: customer segments, customer relationships, channels, key activities, partners, resources, cost structure, and revenue stream. So let's just jump into a little bit of each of these. And I'm going to pull up the business model canvas just so you all can see what this looks like. All right, so here's the business model canvas. Again, this is a very popular tool used in entrepreneurship. In my teaching with students, in my work with entrepreneurs in the community, from a coaching perspective, we start here. I believe that if you understand these elements, you can then start thinking about the business plan and everything else. But this is really important to understand first. Let's think about Slim and Huskies. I want to use Slim and Huskies because I like to teach based on an example. So Slim and Huskies Pizza, for those of you that aren't familiar, is a business here in Nashville, founded in Nashville, spreading all over the country. Derek Moore, Emmanuel Reed, Clint Gray, 3 TSU classmates of mine, they launched it. They've taken off. They've done well. Let's go through this canvas using their business model and think about what makes sense. This is going to help you think about your own business model. And I'm just going to do this on the fly. Okay, so work with me here. So the first block is key partners. I hope you all can see this clearly. The first block is key partners. When we think of key partners, we're thinking of the people that, or organizations or individuals that are going to be very supportive of what we're trying to do. So when you think of Slim and Huskies, one thing that they do in every community that they go into is they're taking existing real estate and they're redeveloping that real estate for the purpose of their business, right? A key partner for them may be a city council person who they may have to engage with in terms of going through the processes of getting the property, acquiring the property, going through zoning if it needs to be rezoned, going through planning if they need to go through planning. The political aspect of what they have to do in order to move forward with developing a property is something that they're engaging with in every city. So political leaders in their communities that they have business in could be considered a key partner for them. Who's helping them do the development work? Are they building it themselves? Are they contracting with a construction firm? That's going to be a key partner, because they can't start serving customers until that business has been, until that facility that they're using has been essentially redeveloped for the purposes of what they're trying to do, which is to serve food to customers. All right. So key partners are those individuals, those businesses that they have to engage with at the beginning and after they've launched in order to be able to effectively deliver their value to their customers. Let's talk about key activities. What are key activities in terms of what Slim and Huskies has to do, right? And when we think of activities, it's essentially just the things that you're consistently engaged in. Excuse me. It's the things that you're consistently engaged in as it relates to helping you engage in your business. So that can look like production, that can look like engaging with your network, that can look like a few different things as it relates to key activities, okay? When we're thinking about how they particularly develop and deliver revenue and deliver value to their customers. Key resources look like the tools that they have to essentially engage with, right? They've got to think about where they're getting their food products from. They've got to think about the talent, the people that are working in their business, their staff. Those are going to be resources that are vital to what they do. When we think about the value proposition, what is the value proposition? I'm going to get, as a customer, an experience that is grounded in Black culture and good food. Anytime I go into a Slim and Husky's establishment, I'm going to see images that represent Black culture. I'm going to hear music reflective of that. I'm going to see people that look like me, and I'm going to taste good food that is fresh and healthy. Those are elements of the value proposition for a customer that goes to Slim and Husky's, because those are things that may be important to them. I enjoy supporting Black-owned establishments. I know that they're a Black-owned business. Just by me stepping foot in there and engaging as a customer delivers value for me. They also have the $10 Tuesdays, and I know I can go and get 2 pizzas for $20. So I'm not only getting that customer experience embedded in Black culture, I'm also saving some money and getting some good pizza. Got 3 boys to feed. So that is essentially, for me, how I would view the value proposition. What is it that keeps customers coming back? If you go to Slim and Husky's, why do you keep going back? Why do you go stand in line? Pizza's good. You're supporting some folks in our community. There are reasons why you continue to engage as a customer if you do business with them. So why would somebody continue to do business with you? What is it about your business that's going to keep customers wanting to come back, wanting to stand in line and ask questions? And engage in business. I'm reading the chat here, seeing someone has questions. Customer relationships, another element of this business model canvas. Customer relationships are important when we think of business in general, because you want to have a good relationship with your customer. I believe that Slim and Husky's has a strong relationship with their network of customers. Okay, they keep coming back. I've seen people stand outside in the rain and in the cold prior to this COVID season to get that California love or the vegan pizza or whatever the case may be. It's because they've got good relationships with their customers. They do work in the community. They just gave away 300 plus frozen pizzas to some families that needed it last week. People are paying attention to that. They're developing goodwill in their community. When we think about channels can represent a few different things, right? It can represent sales in terms of how you get your product out the door. It can also represent other ways in which you may get other products or services that you need. So you may have a supply chain as a channel for food and other things that you have coming in. But when we think about Slim and Husky's in terms of a sales channel perspective, you can access their business in store. You can also go online. You can also order to go. You've got different ways to get their particular product. So you've got different channels through which you can engage with them as a customer. All right. What are the different ways in which your customer can reach you? How are they engaging with your business? Through what mediums? Is it purely online? Is it in person and online? Is it through word of mouth? How are customers able to connect to you? Customer segments, when we think of a segment, we're just looking at groupings. Businesses tend to have multiple segments which often overlap, okay? Slim and Husky's has a very broad base of customers. My 10-year-old son loves Slim and Husky's. I'm almost 40, I love it. So that's a huge range with a lot of overlap in between. Primarily, though, their largest demographic is likely the African American community. Even though other ethnicities go and do business there, the majority of the people that I see engaging with Slim and Husky's look like me. So we know that the Black community is a huge segment in terms of their base of customers. But within that, they can likely break it down and identify other more specific segments. For example, we know that college students are a crowd. We know that working middle class adults that are in that downtown, Germantown, Salemtown community are a crowd, okay? It's important to understand who your product or service is intended to reach, because that may shape what product or service you offer or how you deliver that product or service. All right, let's talk about these last two, which are cost structure and revenue streams. Let's talk about revenue streams first. Slim Huskies makes their money by selling pizza primarily. But if you go into their establishment, they also sell, at one point, they were selling beer and wine. I assume that they still do. I haven't been inside in a while. Pizza, revenue stream, beer, wine, revenue stream, other associated things such as drinks and sodas. But if you recall, they also started packaging up their sauces that they've created, and they sell those as well. That's another revenue stream. They likely do some level of catering. That's another revenue stream. In every community that they exist in, they are embedded in some type of real estate. That particular venue may be something that they allow the community to rent for events. That's another revenue stream. Basically, when we think of revenue streams, we're thinking of all of the different ways in which you're gaining sales from your customers. Okay. Revenue is essentially the money, the proceeds that you are getting based on the product or service that you're delivering. We can think of a few different streams of revenue for the Slim Huskies brand. Forgot to mention one. They also have apparel. If you go into their rollout location, they have hats, they have t-shirts. So they're branding their apparel as well. Just another stream of revenue. Those auxiliary streams may not be it may not equal their core stream, but for every time somebody orders one of their sauces online or goes and purchases a hat, that just brings in additional revenue to the business. So when you think about your business, what is your core stream of revenue? What other auxiliary streams of revenue can you attach to that so that you're able to get value, deliver value, but get revenue in different ways? Okay. Think about this like Apple. When you buy an iPhone, that's just the very beginning of them getting money out of you as a customer. Every time you purchase an app, they get paid. You use Apple News or Apple Music. You go and buy other Apple accessories. You got to get a charger every 6 months. When you buy an iPhone, Apple is continuing to deliver its value to you and also use other streams of revenue to generate income. Amazon does the same thing. You purchase an Amazon device, they're going to figure out how to continuously get revenue out of you as a customer. So that's what we mean by revenue streams. Okay. When we think about cost structure, what is it? How much does it cost to run your business? What is driving cost in your business? What are you paying for? What are you spending money on? What's the most expensive aspect of your business? If you have a brick and mortar establishment, an actual facility, your biggest costs are likely that lease and the employees, the staff. After that, it's likely inventory and then maybe other expenses like utilities. Brick and mortar can be very expensive, okay, because you've got your cost of goods, you've got your human resources, but you've also got the real estate that you're paying for on a monthly basis. Understanding all of those costs in your business is important because you want to be able to manage those costs and essentially drive those costs down. But if you're not aware of them, you can't essentially get on top of them. So delivering value to a customer through a product or a service is essentially a costly venture. And you're making up for that cost by charging for your product or service. And hopefully you're turning a profit. That's essentially the idea behind business. Okay. So let me just kind of go back and explain how we got to this point. Starting with purpose. We then go to an understanding of what we're passionate about. We then think about the problem that we're trying to address. Once we get to the sense of our problem, what is a solution to that problem? What product or service are we using to deliver a solution? What is our plan? Which we then walk through the elements of the business model canvas. Okay. In each of these boxes, I just quickly went through them using the Slim and Huskies as example for the sake of time. I could dive much deeper into each of these to help you as an entrepreneur or soon to be entrepreneur understand what this would look like for your business. You want to spend a lot of time really thinking through this business model canvas so that you're clear on what you're doing before you jump out and start trying to do it. Again, you're taking a problem that you're solving with the product or service. There's a cost associated with it for you, and there's a cost associated with it for your customer. And your goal is to ensure that what you're getting for that product or service outweighs what it's costing you to deliver it, so that as a business owner, you're gaining profit. So let's jump to the next slide here, which is profit. 1 second. Get to my slides. All right. So when we think about profit, I like to think about this in terms of understanding what is the identity of your business. What is your business about? What are you based on? What's important to you as a business? Now, the image that I have here on the screen is a very powerful image. This is representative of 2020 and the energy around social justice. I put this up on the screen because this was a record year for businesses thinking about how to shift towards supporting more social justice initiatives and efforts, and how to be more socially conscious and responsible. When you are engaging in business, you have an identity, and that identity guides how and what you do. You have a vision for your business, which is focused on the future, where you're trying to go. And your vision is basically what the world would look like if you're successful. You have a mission, which is grounded in the present and is focused on the things that you're going to do day to day to make your vision a reality. You've got your values. Your values are essentially your guardrails. Those are the behaviors that are going to keep you in check as you're going through the process of trying to deliver value to a customer to generate profits. You've got your ethical considerations that you have to make in terms of doing business, but not hurting people or not hurting the planet, being sustainable in a sense. We can't do business in a way where we're wrecking people's lives. We have to do business in a way that is improving people's lives. And where are you as it relates to social responsibility? Okay. As a business, are you doing business in a way that benefits people in your community? Are you doing business in a way that gives consideration to underrepresented groups? Are you doing business in a way where you are embracing diversity and things like equal pay across gender? So when I think about profits, I don't just look at that in isolation and say, if you do this well, if you provide a service to solve this problem for a customer, you're going to start making profit. I think that profit is much bigger than just the money that you make. And it starts to consider who are you and what are you doing and why? Because the wrong approach can eat into your profits. And we've seen that happen all 2020 with businesses that have not embraced diversity, that have not necessarily focused on social justice. They've lost customers. They've lost market share because they're not approaching business with the right identity. So as we think about this last phase of profits, which everybody wants to get to the money, and I get that, and it's important. We're not working for free. We're not in business for free. But while you're focusing on generating profits as an entrepreneur, just think about who you are, why you're doing it. Go back to your purpose, for why you even exist, and think about how you can use your business to impact your community and make the world around you a better place. All right. And I want to end on this slide. So just to kind of show you guys the big picture again. Purpose-driven profits is about understanding your purpose, connecting that to your passion, identifying a problem that's painful for a group of people, developing a product or a service to addressing that, having a strong plan or approach for your business model, and then thinking about how you'll gain profits by doing business the right way. That's purpose-driven profits. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope it was meaningful for you. I wanted to leave some time here to just answer any questions that anybody may have, or just share anything that anybody may want to know. So feel free to drop any questions or any comments that you have. I'd love to hear what you guys had to think about this. Thank you, Jasmine.
Wonderful. That was amazing. Thank you so much. I'm over here trying to type notes and everything. We did have a question in the chat, and then I also have some more questions for you. So our question in the chat, we have, let's see, after going through your process that you explained with the worksheets and answering those questions. After going through this and answering the questions, if there are gaps, is that a sign to pause a business launch? And then also, does one need to have all the answers to get started?
Okay. I think this is Jamie Hardy's question over here, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Jamie, thank you for this question. This is a good question. So I wouldn't say that this is something that has to bring you to a full stop. And in a sense, some of the answers to these questions are going to essentially be evolving on your entrepreneurial journey. These are just things that I think make sense as a consideration early on. And the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of times, and even me, I've in the past have launched business in a way where you just jump into it, because that's typically what entrepreneurship ends up being about. You start flying the plane, then you start building the plane. But along the way, you start to realize, wow, maybe I should have thought about this. Maybe I should have thought about that. The fact is that most people don't really go through any type of in-depth planning phase before they launch a business. They just launch. And so I came up with this framework because it gives you some things to really think deeply about as you're going through the process. And they're not things you would have normally thought about. And they usually come in the frame of a painful lesson or experience later on. So my goal with this is to help you think through things that may save you some heartache as you go through the journey of entrepreneurship, so that you're clear on why you're in business, you're clear on what you're trying to accomplish, and you're clear on how that value is going to be delivered to your customer as you're going through. So if you've already launched, this is a great time to stop and revisit your business. If you're in the process of launching, this is a great opportunity to dig deeper and ask some questions before you jump out there, just to make sure that you're clear on your why and your what and your how. I hope that answered your question, Jamie.
Awesome. And I also did have some questions that I had as you were going through. So I know the process that you talked about with getting feedback from the customers to see if that product added value. How do you get feedback from customers if you don't have a product per se at this time?
Yes, one thing that I tell people to do all the time is to use your network as somewhat of a focus group and just do a small survey. You can use SurveyMonkey, you can use Google Forms, you could come up with a 5-question survey about your business, put that out to your network and tell people, look, I'm considering starting a business. I've identified a problem that I'm trying to solve. I just want to get your thought process on it. So you'll have to essentially do some data collection, which is going to be focused on the customer demographic that you're trying to serve. And just by getting some of that anecdotal evidence, it may help you better understand the problem. Okay. A lot of times in entrepreneurship, when we launch, we're thinking about how the problem affects us. So we understand it in the way in which we're impacted by it. But you go and ask 2 or 3 other people, you may get 2 or 3 other perspectives, and that may shape how you then reformulate your your product or service to address that problem.
Oh, wonderful. Awesome. So from Kwanzaa, Nashville, we do have another question. Why is it important for our Black Nashville community to develop more Black entrepreneurs? And how does it impact the power of the Black dollar?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking it. This is my philosophy around entrepreneurship, specifically Black entrepreneurship. When you look at our community, we lag behind pretty much all other demographic groups in terms of entrepreneurship. Historically, we lag behind whites, Hispanics, Asians, as it relates to our rates of business ownership. We typically lag behind other ethnicities as it relates to employment as well. I view entrepreneurship as our smoking gun solution to our employment crisis in the Black community. And I really want more Black businesses to not only launch, but scale, because that means we're going to create more jobs in our community and put more of our people to work. Our problem in America is largely a problem of economic opportunity. And we've sat and waited for other folks to create jobs for us. And when those markets go away, we're affected by it. And we're sitting on the sidelines again, and we're looking for opportunity. Just look at what Slim and Huskies has been able to do in Nashville alone. They've got the North Nashville location, or 2 on Buchanan. They've got the Antioch location. They're setting up shop in Murfreesboro. Outside of Nashville, they're in Atlanta. They're, I think, 2 in Atlanta, 1 in Memphis, Sacramento. These guys are everywhere. But everywhere they exist, they've created at least 20 job positions for people that look like us, because our people are working in those establishments, and they're creating economic activity that gets spread into that local community. They're attracting other entrepreneurs to that hub where they're set up. It's a residual effect. If we get more Black entrepreneurs to launch and scale businesses, we can solve our unemployment issue, and we can solve our economic issue. In terms of how does it impact the power of the Black dollar, I think that it makes the Black dollar stronger, because we know that the Black dollar leaves our community as soon as it touches our hands, and it goes out essentially into the hands of other people. But as we have more Black businesses to circulate our monies with, we're keeping that Black dollar in our community much longer. That's going to help us in terms of generating wealth. So there's a lot of ways I can answer that question, but I really think that Black entrepreneurship is one of the most important tools for Black power today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. I know you did also speak on the oversaturation, especially of apparel. Is there a time where you say, okay, this market is oversaturated, I don't want to enter? What does that look like as a business owner, and how do you identify that oversaturation?
Sure. There's a concept called blue ocean strategy, and there's a couple of books on this, but I'll just kind of make it plain and simple. Let's just say we're all on a boat, right? We're celebrating in South Beach. We're on a boat, and everybody's in the water on jet skis having a good time. And all of a sudden, you see a pool of red in the water. What are you doing first, Jasmine? You jumping out. You getting out the water, because you're looking at that, and we know if we see red in the water, it means something is feasting on something. So when we think of business and we use that analogy, a red ocean in business is an ocean full of a bunch of sharks, which are other entrepreneurs feasting on that market. When you launch a business, you want to look for a blue ocean. That's an ocean where there's not a lot of feasting taking place. And that means there's a couple of reasons, but that potentially is a good market to enter, because there's not a lot of people in it. Now, there's either not a lot of people in it because it's too expensive to get in it, or it just hasn't taken off yet. Okay. 10 years ago, we weren't using apps to catch rides in the cars of strangers. That was a blue ocean. It's 10 years later, and we've got 2 dominant apps in that platform, Lyft and Uber. there might be room for one more. I'm not really sure. I'd love to see a Black-owned one. I know there was one called Moving some years ago. I don't know if they're still in business. What about gas delivery? Getting gas delivered to you instead of you going to the gas station. Is that something you would pay for, Jasmine?
Oh, I would in a heartbeat.
Yeah. So there's a business that already launched that's doing it. They launched in 2015. It's called Yoshi. They're the only business that I know of in that market. Now, it's a resource intensive market. It's a costly market to enter, but it's a blue ocean. And they just got, I think, $20 million from General Motors Ventures to help invest and scale what they're doing. There are a lot of blue oceans for entrepreneurship. I think what happens in the Black community is our purpose for getting into business is because we've got this economic challenge and we're trying to address that as quick as we can. And we do it by looking at what's the most readily and easily available business venture to jump into so that we can solve our economic challenge. What happens is we just start a bunch of the same kind of businesses and nothing ever scales. Does that make sense? Versus saying, let me just take some time and figure this out and get this right so I can grow it. And it's not just about the short-term need to put money in my pocket, but a longer-term desire to build something that I can scale and better impact my community. And I know it's hard. I'm not saying that this is something that can be easily done, but that's just how I view entrepreneurship. So back to your question, Jasmine, a lot of people are looking at the apparel business because it's a market that has a low barrier to entry. It's easy to jump into that market. So a lot of people do it. You can get on Instagram, you can promote your clothing line, you can sell 100 t-shirts at $20 a pop and make $2,000, and that's good. But here's something to consider. Everybody that's launching a t-shirt business is trying to figure out who's going to print their t-shirts. So maybe we need more Black-owned businesses that actually wholesale t-shirts and print for all the clothing lines that want to start, instead of us going to the same business that doesn't look like us or isn't owned like us to get our products created. So when I talk to my students and they tell me that they want to start a clothing line, I say, that's great, but why don't you launch the business that all the clothing lines need first? You know, everybody wants a clothing line. Start the printing company and scale that. Just something to consider.
Awesome. Well, if you didn't get a gem from this conversation, I'm not sure where you were, but you weren't with us. I definitely appreciate all the information that you shared. To follow up with getting in contact with you, if we want to have some coaching sessions, etc., how do we get in contact with you, whether it's social media or your website?
Sure. So my email address is on the screen here. You can just email me, hello@isaacadai.com. My website is isaacadai.com. I am also on all social media platforms, and that's YAOADDAE. So if you go on my website, you can get to all of my social media links at the bottom. You can learn about what I'm doing, and I'll share a link to book an appointment with me if anybody wants to be able to do that. I enjoy working with entrepreneurs. I want to see more of us grow and, most importantly, scale a business where we can hire people. It's great if we can support ourselves, but it's better if we can transform our community through what we do as entrepreneurs. So I'm interested in working with any and everybody who's seeking to figure that out.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. I'm pretty sure we've had a lot of thank yous and awesome in the chat, but we definitely appreciate you sharing all of your knowledge with us today. And we look forward to staying in contact with you. I hope you stay around and hop in the networking section and view some Expo booths so that we can stay in contact with you. Yes,
we'll do. And Keisha's going to be a part of the Expo, so I'm going to tune in and make sure I support her. My wife, Lakeisha Simmons of the Achiever Academy, I have to encourage you all to go check out her page, her booth, as well as all the other vendors. Thanks to Kwanzaa Nashville. This is a very innovative way to bring knowledge to our people. I'm honored to be a part of it. Thank you so much, Jasmine.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great one. And hopefully we'll run into you later on in the other areas of the expo.
For sure. Reach out to me. Look forward to hearing from everybody. Take care.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. Bye. All right. So that was amazing. We definitely appreciate Isaac for sharing all of that information. If you scroll down in the chat, we have Pivot Technology School linked pinned here, and we will definitely make sure we can stay in contact with the links that he dropped. What we'll do is take a quick 10-minute break. I will actually be back on to present our customer service session. So I will definitely make sure that we can continue this drop of wonderful knowledge with our customer service session. So we will be back shortly at 11:30, and we will have our next session. See you shortly.